welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that package. Now, over to newspaper review. Today, 27th of May, 2025. Most definitely. Welcome back. All right. In the papers today is all packed, so you can't make a mistake. First and foremost, I would say I hope that package gave you something to think about, so that you can think about how great stuff we're doing, the great stuff we're doing in the country, so you can miss it for the world. All right. Okay. So the papers goes all the way in. Business Day here says MSME, and by the way, I'm not alone. Yes, I do have my co-analyst, most definitely. The man himself, Akanji.
Thank
Mohammed.
you very much. How was your night?
Very well, very well.
It's been a very breezy and rainy day in Lagos this morning. I don't know whether you experienced it. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, we'll get to it, Mohammed.
Definitely.
Let me give them what the tips is.
Of course,
right?
Perfect.
All right, so MSMEs run on fumes as power cuts and cripples operations. Mohammed. Now, other part here says Naira to remain stable as big gains unlikely. All right, it goes on to say, and that's the Business Day, by the way. That's Business Day.
The rider there, I think it's very important to read the riders.
Yes.
Trades at what? No, for
okay here. Yeah, so it says
exactly.
Trades at $1,610 in the black market. That's a lot. That's a lot. All right. So at the end here, that's a Business Day. It says world's most wanted mineral lures at $800 million to Nigeria. What does that really mean? We'll find out more. All right. So he also says here that 50 years on, ECOWAS grapples with crisis, regional instability. Before we go into other ones, Vanguard and Punch, Mohammed.
Thank you, Valentine.
Yes.
Again, you want to shape me again.
Thank you very much. This handshake now is important because this needs a lot to come out of it.
A lot of digging into and a lot of examination.
SMEs run on fumes as power cuts cripple operations. Again.
Existential problem, or just existential challenges that have actually characterized the nation's trajectory for time immemorial. But first, I think I should be able to address the fact that this is part of our big story analysis that we're actually doing on the power sector that is beaming a searchlight on that general theme of running on empty. And by running on empty, of course, it looks a bit paradoxical, but it's simply that most of the businesses, the engine of growth or the stimulating engine that they needed to be able to power the businesses to the promised land, which is power, is becoming a mirage. It's becoming elusive. And most people, most businesses who are the heartbeat of the economic trajectory of the nation or the economic running of the nation are really lamenting with the problem of power. Now today was actually the focus of MSMEs, the micro, small and medium scale enterprises. And the analysis there showed, the interviews with, just few of them that were actually interviewed who were talking about how their businesses have actually started well, but because of poor power supply has impacted the operation significantly. In fact, in one of the last reports that was actually done by, I think, the World Bank about the major challenge of SMEs, I'm trying to remember the think tank that actually did the study, and what most of the businesses are used to as the major challenge of running business in Nigeria, apart from maybe cost of borrowing, the next problem there is power. And I'm sure it's been overflowed. People have actually been able to, people have spoken about it, businesses have lamented about it, and you've seen a whole lot of them as well who operate even in the commercial hub in Lagos, commercial city of Nigeria, Lagos, talking about how difficult it has been for them to be able to maintain enough margin because of power problem. Now, go down the memory lane. The government has tried an attempt. Say, okay, how can we be able to salvage the situation? From the generative, okay, what did we do? In 2013, we decided to privatize, right? That, okay, maybe because it is the hand of the government, that is what is breeding inefficiency. Let's take it out to the hand of the private players. Hopefully, at least based on the success that we have, recorded from telecommunication. So perhaps we can be able to translate those gains into the power sector as well, if it is in the hand of the private sector. Allow private players who can actually be able to drive efficiency and effectiveness in the operation of the power sector. But more than about 12, 13 years down the line, we're still walking along that tightrope. it doesn't appear that we've been able to get changes, when it comes to our power. The president, during his campaign promise in 2022, remember, was the fact that if I cannot be able to fix power in my first term, don't vote for me the second term, right? I think he mentioned that one of the campaign mantra. And the Minister of Power, Mr. Adila, even came out to start with this banding system to ensure that let's just be able to
divide band B and all that stuff.
Band E, thank you very much, to ensure that we can be able to bring sanity into the system. We can be able to assure that cost-reflective tariff is actually entrenched in the system. But despite that, the power has struggled to be able to lift off.
And so,
in terms of the day of distribution.
And so we wonder, even after they had put the NEPA, NEPA on the side, and they revamped, people still go up NEPA when the light comes down. NEPA when the light goes away.
I think that is.
This is more than 40.
That's been more than embellished in our system, or it's so ingrained.
Is it now a ballad?
Perhaps is it?
Is it something for people to now say, okay, this is what we're known for?
For NEPA, because
I grew up here in NEPA.
I used to hear, perhaps, why? Maybe children of the day as well. I don't know. So those NEPA went out in 2008. It became then 2008 PHCN. Then after PHCN, we have the privatization.
But
in
even with
people
that,
still
people
refer to NEPA. Perhaps I mean that's more of culture thing, well ingrained in our culture. But I think just like you said, it is operations. The operation is really crippled. It is really, really affecting operations. And I'm sure when our readers, when our listeners, the audience look the paper, they will see real life experience of businesses that are lamenting from poor power supply, how it is crippling their operation, and how that have actually been able to affect their bottom line.
And basically affecting the economy as a
whole. Of course. I mean,
all right. We hope.
I think Naira as well. Maybe should I just talk about that quickly?
Yeah, I was going to Naira. We hope one day the idea of saying up NEPA and all that and down NEPA will finally come to an end.
And then we can say that we can boast of, oh yes. I mean, we would just say, let's even talk about 24 hours for a start. Let's even talk about, let's just start with 20 hours, 10 hours.
Do you think this is possible?
I mean, because I felt like I thought that some of the interventions that actually introduced in the power could have allowed us to actually be, talking about blackouts, power outages, could have been something of the past at this point in time.
Well, something of the past, we hope soon enough.
That we are still battling with it.
But something that is still holding down is the part that the Naira to remain stable as big gains are unlikely. Trades at 1,610 Naira to $1.
That's the black market.
In the black market.
I mean, it's still,
or rather, you want to call it on the black market or at the black market, whichever it is. It's just that it is not funny. I mean, do you remember about how many years ago? Just 10, 15 years ago. Okay. How much was it at the time? Now look at the level, the margin. And the more this happens, there's a big tendency that the economy will end up almost, nosediving, and the question will not be, is our economy, is it tanking or has it tanked?
I mean, I don't think it has fully tanked, but it is tanking, definitely, to be able to have that. But I think one thing about the story, maybe I was able to take it from the positive, is the fact that the days of swinging changes, right? To just say, you wake up today, the Naira just jumped from 1,005 and just ballooned up. It just jumped to 1,007. You're able to say, what's going to happen tomorrow? I'm sure you'll be able to know. The last 1-2 years, we've seen experiences where the Naira will just balloon. You just wake up one morning and next thing you just hear is, how much is dollar now? It's just 2,000. From what? 1,005.
Are there people responsible for manipulating this thing? That's such a way that it doesn't favor the common man.
The common man.
Devaluing our Naira.
You can't rule out the role of speculators. That's what we call them. Of course, because it's also a market where businesses too also want to be able to take advantage. I mean, people too want to take advantage of the lacuna in the system. The CBN has tried to introduce reforms. And some of those reforms have gone a long way in sustaining the momentum, right? Reasonably. Because now, most of the time, you'll be seeing the changes at around 10 Naira, 11 Naira, maybe just on the official market, it's close at 1,595.
I hold your thoughts on that. Okay. 1,595.
You said so. Market.
Official market. Yes, it's
1,610 for the black market.
We hope one day when we wake up to see that it's 5,000.
Oh, I don't. Because with the CBN, I think we have a power now.
Moving on.
It's like we might not be able to get that. Hopefully,
world's most wanted mineral lures. Yes. $800 million.
That is lithium. I'm sure you know lithium. it is an important mineral right now.
And if we
Solar
have
power
it,
for electric vehicles, it is attracting a whole lot of investors into it. I'm sure we have lithiums are more available in Africa. I'm not sure whether we have them in commercial quantities in Nigeria.
Well, even if
But
we
in
do,
DR Congo,
would they allow us know the quantity?
the quantity.
I mean, in Congo they do
Because
have cobalt and
cobalt,
every other thing.
cobalt, and then so what they have there. So you have
But we have
Rwanda.
Californium in this country.
Okay. Oh, that's another California.
California.
Okay. Where is that located?
It's somewhere within the North area.
North area is all, I think. So I'm sure we have lithium as well because the way the world is actually moving towards electric vehicle now, the
Those
demand is
rare
a major input, a major resource into the production of electric cars. So and that's why you can be able to say $100 million investment is what that resource, is actually be able to attract. And even more than that, you still see businesses, you still see investors. Investors now is like they're black gold. If you tell them there is lithium here, they are willing to be able to pump money to jump into it.
Talking about willingness, is ECOWAS willing to have something different? At 50 years old, they still grapple with crisis and regional instability. Mohammed, we hear they say a fool at 40 is a fool forever. But I'm not saying they are one. I'm just saying. So at 50. Do you think that something different should come out of it?
Yes. I think ECOWAS too is trying to. You'll be seeing some rebranding and some repositioning of their organization, especially.
But they are smart people. They are not foolish. They are smart, but they make right decisions.
Of course,
to enable the bloc itself
to actually be able to help. And we've heard about ECOMOG. I think we spoke about them. How ECOMOG is actually their military arm. That's their standing army that they can definitely be able to deploy to countries.
But they've lost some certain member countries
because of Niger, Mali, Burkina
Faso,
the Sahel region.
Do you think that was they acted swiftly, or should they have
waited for a while to
exactly? So
ECOWAS, remember, is actually built on democratic principles and the promotion of democratic ethos. So anything that is opposing, anything that actually be able to truncate that, they definitely, one of the things about them, one of the standing principles is once they say no, we are not going to be able to support military administration anywhere in West African region. So, which is in fact in time past when other West African countries have experienced military rulership, you tend to see them making that declaration boldly that this is not supported, and we will encourage or advise the countries to ensure that they return back to civilian rule as soon as possible. Whether Africans, whether the people themselves have actually been able to get the dividend of democracy is another kettle of fish, right? But ECOWAS is actually built on that principle of democratic entrenchment, entrench democratic principles, and that's what I think the Sahel region, the Niger, Mali, when the military take over, when those sweeping changes that we're seeing there, that made them to actually be able to stand up to say, no, we will not support this. And when it happens to our next door neighbor here in Niger in 2023, you saw what the president did, even though there were a lot of backlash as well from Nigerians against Nigerians to say you have no right to be able to intervene in our national affairs. But truth be told, sorry I'm cutting you. Truth be told, if you look at it, as much as ECOWAS has done great stuff over time, 50 years, we know they've counted some great, things that they've done, achievements that they've actually done. But EcoBank belongs to them, remember. The EcoBank is ECOWAS Bank.
You see,
and they were also trying to be able to introduce common currency, just like the euros in the European Union. They have not been able to see the light of the day. They've proposed ECO that across West African countries, we're able to have one currency that will spend, at least. Because if it can actually be done in the European Union, it was actually a proposal. For the past 10 years, they've been on that, but it has not really been able to hit the apple card. I mean, it's able to hit the target in that regard. Apart from that, you've seen them coming up with some other economic, of course, it's an economic block, right? Sometimes they tend to veer into things about politics, into social cultural.
Is that part
issues.
Of their manifesto?
Yes,
part of
maybe that's just secondary part of when it was established in 1975. So, but just like you said, it's 50 years today. The celebration has started in Ghana in April, just to be able to complete it here in Nigeria, and that's why it is an NIA celebration today.
All right,
and the president, in fact, is also there today to be able to deliver some groundbreaking introductions of the ECOWAS, because he's still the chairman, and at the same time to be able to make some important directions for the next 50 years of ECOWAS.
Someone once asked me that is it like a out of default that the chairman seat always goes to Nigeria.
No, I think
Or is it because we have more influence within the
we
bloc?
did. Sometimes I think that plays a role, but
Are we still the giant of Africa?
so
Two questions in a
economic
row.
wise, can we still say that? Now with the rebasing of the fine,
Right.
we before this rebasing, as at December last year, we actually be able to come crashing down to the fourth largest economy in Africa.
I hold you.
But
on
now
that because of time.
we're expecting that with the rebasing, we should actually
Okay.
Nigeria still be able to like boast with that that lofty height that yes, we still actually be able to command that presence, you know, that presence, that influence when it actually be able to come to Africa.
All right, you guys have heard Mohammed. Let's jump straight into the next paper. Governors, BOT reconvene as NEC meeting stores. That you can find out in the Punch. Governors, BOT reconvene as NEC meeting stalls. Mohammed. It goes on to say, it says,
There's a writer?
there's a write up here. It says, yes, the Magoon uncertain about NEC meeting. Article others, Sean National Caucus meeting. Are we seeing history playing itself out again? Or is this new to us?
Okay. So, in fact, because I know the question
Because I
somebody
mean,
asked me when I was
the
coming
Punch
to
has
office
it very clear here.
exactly, that could this be, in fact, a naysayer, I won't be able to call him that, is actually one of the speculators, believe that by 2027, we might likely see the end of the PDP or the demise of the PDP.
Why do you think
I will
so?
say that, thank you. So, today is supposed to be their NEC meeting, which should signal the end of the current executive committee members, led by Alhaji Omar Damagum, who is the acting chairman of the party. Now, this NEC meeting has been postponed. This is the 7th time it's been postponed. Right. 4th this year since last year. They've not been able to have it. They'll fix this day. So today they fixed the date as well for it to happen today. I'm sure you can be able to see what happens again now. And in fact, the chairman himself was uncertain of the NEC meeting. That meeting, and it's because of the internal squabbles, the internal wrangling that have beleaguered the party. The former Senate president, Alhaji Bukola Saraki, was actually appointed for a reconciliation committee so that aggrieved members can actually come together. They can be talked to, appease them, and see how all of them can actually be able to coalesce together in a melting pot and have a discussion. And the meeting happened on Sunday. And we all heard what I'm sure it was in the papers yesterday, that in fact Wiki has to be able to send a very long task on Twitter to say that he will never be able to attend any reconciliation committee again because, in fact, that's able to throw bombs at the governor of Bauchi State and the governor of Oyo State, who he claimed reneged on the promise that he reached at the reconciliation meeting. So you can see political gladiators, coming out to say no one is actually ready to sheath their sword. That's why I'm actually saying that they're not ready to sheath their swords now, and everyone is actually saying, "I am in the right. I am not in the wrong, and I'm not willing to be able to compromise."
You know what they say? They say, "Look, if an eye for an eye continues,
of course, everybody will go blind.
Everybody will go blind.
That's what's going to happen.
Let's hope that we don't all go blind in the country. So let's let's move on to the next paper. All right, and wish them well, of course,
and they'll be able to settle their internal issues.
In the Vanguard, it says, congestion hits Lagos ports amid truck restrictions. Congestions hit Lagos ports amid trucks restrictions. Because of time, I'll just go straight to the next one. It says, sealing of Secretariat, PDP fumes as Tinubu intervenes. It's getting quite interesting. I see your body's you're boiling.
Because apart from the neck issue that we're talking about, this is what also be able to.
Let's end it with this one.
Of course.
So what do you think?
Wadata House has actually Wadata House is the PDP complex in Abuja. Right. That's what they call it. Wadata House. And Wike, through the Federal Capital Housing Authority, has actually alleged that their ground rent, since it has actually been built, has not been paid. Which is what they want to call land use charge here in Lagos, right? I'm sure land use charge was actually a very common thing I will talk about here in Lagos. So the offices were short, including PDP. And that's why people were looking at, even if they want people to have the NEC meeting we just spoke about, where would they have it? Because their complex was actually shut down. Has actually been sealed because of, but their inability to be able to meet their obligations to the authority, the Federal Capital Development Authority in Abuja. So, the president has intervened. They kicked as well, accusing the federal government of trying to muzzle oppositions with that. But sometimes, it is simply your obligation. Like, you didn't pay your tax. And then because you feel like you're in the opposition, you can accuse, the ruling party to say, oh, they try to be able to muzzle us because we're in the opposition.
But do you think they're actually accusing the ruling party, or they're just jealous that they didn't get the seat?
I felt like I don't think by now they shouldn't be able to put their house in order for 2027, just like we said. I don't think it's about jealousy. I think it's really about, they felt like and that's what actually the statement that came out from the chairman, to say that the ruling party is actually to do everything to kill them. Kill the opposition, and then so that they can actually be able to have an easy course as a one-party state.
As a one-party state.
Because of time. APC is actually basking in that to say, oh, maybe if all these other parties, I'm sure we'll be able to get that as well. If all these other parties eventually could not be able to settle their issues, it will just be an easy ride for them.
Let's allow people out there to go out and probably purchase the paper and then read more. All right. Here it says FCTA, FIRS disagree over ground rent. Maybe we should end with this one. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I mean that's what's still happening. We always say Federal Capital Territory Authority, who is actually still, because apart from it, as I said, PDP, NAPTIP, FIRS buildings were also sealed. Just like as a result of their inability to be able to meet up that obligation. So there are still some issues around that. Is it expected? Is it needed for them to do that? That is on. But the question there is, the president has intervened. The president has actually been able to ask them, say, please to give them 14 more days to regularize and normalize their obligations.
Mohammed. The obligations. Here it says, DPO fear dead as youths set Kano police station ablaze.
Yes.
Wow.
There was a story too that was found yesterday about a boy that died in their custody, and then the people, high-rate youth went to the police station in Kano and then set it on fire. All right, let's take something on the foreign news. It says Saudi Arabia deports Sheikh Gumi, barred from Hajj. And with that, what do you think? For some if I take a close? Oh yes, I mean it was one that I released that. I think I followed him as well on. I followed him on. I followed him on Twitter. I was on Twitter yesterday. I actually mentioned that because he's supposed to be part of the NACON. He was actually appointed as one of the cleric in place to be able to advise, lecture and provide sermons for the pilgrims. But because of his positions and some of what he has actually mentioned, so Saudi authority actually be able to place him on the blacklist, and he was actually returned back home.
Speaking about the blacklist, we hope our cartoon is not blacklisted. We have cartoon for the day. Mohammed, before we call it close, let's see what our cartoon is for the day. Yes. So if you look at it here,
it's still what you're talking about parties.
We see fire being set on a graveyard with LP written on it, and rabbits running out of their hole into a cage. Well, you can make up
PDP as well running into the cage. So we see maybe putting fire into like a massive, So what do you think is actually indicating?
So well, I mean, let's be honest. As journalists, we always want to stay on the fence. So I would say, as far as I'm concerned, there is a campfire going on, and some people are actually getting ready to be roasted. And whoever it is that's setting up the campfire and whoever is going to be roasted, well, viewers, your discretion is your choice.
Thank you,
Mohammed.
I mean, of course, that is great. And you can see someone there. Of course, I'm sure it is still. So last week, APC made that bold announcement to say no one is going to compete against the president.
And you said they were setting the fire. Yeah, they won't say
it. Not sure anyway.
But
today, in fact, what we read in the papers was what those people were saying. They are harassing and muzzling them, and then trying to be able to beat them off the race so that they can actually be able to turn the country to a one-party state.
Speaking about turning the country about one-party state, we hope
coalitions are still going on, and hopefully at least they can be able to get their house in order. I think the advice will be they need to get their house in order, or the oppositions. By this time next year, a campaign would have started. Remember?
Well, we are a multi-party system. Country, we know that already. So everyone has the right to jump in. With that, Mohammed, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you very much for having me.
And I must say it was quite interesting. You guys don't know now. You know Mohammed Akanji, our in-house analyst when it comes to politics, when it comes to what's happened in the country, and more importantly, current affairs. All right, with that, we'll take a break. We're still kicking through with the morning show, breakfast show. My name is still Onyeka Valentine, right here. And in case you missed out, we did something from The Punch. We took from Vanguard. But more importantly, we also took from Business Day. You can go and catch the full details of everything that we analyzed in the news, in the papers. Onyeka Valentine is my name. Don't go away.